Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining OPEX Slayer with us today. We have a great agenda, so let's get to it. Before we get started, we ask that you not make purchase decisions based on any forward-looking statements. All right, so let's get to the agenda. First, we're going to cover why app dev and automation speed are key for you to be able to compete and survive in today's rapidly changing environment. Then we'll cover the business outcomes that you're trying to drive with your automation agenda and how IntegrationHub and Flow Designer make those happen. And third, we'll cover some common use cases and a specific customer example to give you a feel for what this is all about. Then we'll switch over and we'll show you how to use something we call clustering analytics to run a customized analysis of your production data that enables you to identify your highest ROI automation opportunities. And we'll finish up with some no-code automation demos. All right, so talking about speed and agility. It's a new world, and our definition of digital transformation is that every organization must become a modern software development factory in order to compete. And in some cases, it's a matter of survival. So today, we'll walk through our ServiceNow advantage for customers who leverage App Engine and IntegrationHub for no-code process automation on the Now platform. Organizations are constantly navigating and responding to an ever-changing business environment. They pursue business strategies based on known variables in terms of their industry, the economy, the market, and their competitors. And most have adopted transformation initiatives on some level to set themselves up so that they can execute their business at a higher level of speed and flexibility to differentiate themselves and drive the market to their competitive advantage. The recent pandemic has served as an eye-opening reality check for just how fast businesses can actually respond in real time to change, and to be able to pivot to new processes, to new business models, and automate existing processes to drive down OPEX, to compete and to survive. This faster execution requires more automation delivered in the form of software applications. So new app and automation creation has become the leverage point that organizations rely upon to improve how they get work done. But while just about every organization has been pursuing digital transformation at some level, most are experiencing the same challenges in not being able to build the apps and automation they need fast enough. In the past, successful new app deployments were measured in months and years. Today and moving forward, an app needs to go from idea to production in days to be deemed a success. So accelerating app dev and automating processes has now become the key business differentiator. Bottom line, businesses need more apps and automation to be successful. To accelerate application and automation delivery, we need two things. First, we need to expand the pool of people who can build apps and automations and remove the complexity in how those apps are built. At ServiceNow, we accomplish both of those with App Engine and IntegrationHub. First, if we can simplify the technology, we can lower the barrier to entry, enabling more people to build their own apps. So instead of relying on a single source of development within traditional app dev teams in IT, with App Engine and IntegrationHub, we can expand that developer resource pool to include business and operation analysts, admins, fulfillers, support engineers, and other roles inside and outside of IT. Stands to reason that a person in IT service delivery struggling with a mundane manual process is probably in a great position to share that experience and help automate that process. App Engine and IntegrationHub no and low-code development empowers those stakeholders that are most familiar with the business problems, the processes, and end-user work preferences to create higher quality experiences within the apps they build. So simpler technology means less code, which means more builders, resulting in improved scalability. Let's make new ideas and new app development more widely available. Next, we move to a faster app dev model with modern tooling. By reducing or outright removing the dependency on code, we can push all the technical complexity back behind the curtain and focus on solving business problems. Using new and innovative capabilities such as natural language understanding, drag and drop interfaces, and pre-built blocks of code that can be snapped together, like IntegrationHub spokes, we can go from an abstract idea to a concrete automation prototype inside of an hour. And with little to no code, there are less errors, shorter testing cycles, not to mention faster and easier upgrades resulting from radically reduced amounts of custom script. With more people building, less code complexity, now we have the opportunity to scale application delivery and create real speed and velocity in the automation pipeline. All right, let's take a look at your automation agenda. What are you trying to accomplish? First, you're trying to eliminate repetitive manual work. That will unlock fulfiller and other service delivery personnel productivity, free them up for higher value projects that drive that agility I just talked about. Second, automation has a simultaneous benefit, which is the main topic of today's webinar, reducing operational expense on repetitive manual request and incident management tasks by request deflection and automating actions on the back end in external action systems that we'll get into. OPEX savings also result from the net effect of automation increasing staff capacity that meets increasing demand without hiring more people. And third, delivering even better automated self-service experiences with faster time to resolution, which improves employee satisfaction and their productivity. Automation also means that you can measure the end-to-end process and optimize it over time with Now Intelligence, including predictive analytics. All right, so let's see how IntegrationHub and Flow Designer fit into this automation equation. So with Virtual Agent, you can deflect 50% of incidents and requests with front-end automation, powered by out-of-the-box conversations and natural language understanding, providing answers to common questions, opening incidents, making requests, and more. You can advance this front-end automation to end-to-end automation by triggering custom back-end workflows that orchestrate and automate actions in external systems. And you build these back-end workflow automations in Flow Designer and IntegrationHub. And more of your team members can do this quickly with no code. This drives the outcomes that I talked about earlier, namely eliminating OPEX, delivering faster requests and incident resolution. So let's take a look a little more closely at Flow Designer and IntegrationHub. So it's all about no code, it's all about triggers and actions, and it's all about slaying the OPEX that you're faced with having your team spend time on mundane, repetitive manual tasks. Up to 80% of service requests, incidents, and calls to the help desk can be completely automated with no code with the combination of Virtual Agent, Flow Designer, and IntegrationHub spokes. Clustering analytics, which Patrick will get into later, we've seen results at a customer with 14,000 employees and 350 fulfillers showed that end-to-end automation applied to their highest volume incidents, requests, and calls will drive annual OPEX savings of $1.4 million. So this is substantial. IntegrationHub spokes take the complexity out of integrations and automations and enable more people to build them natively on the Now platform they already know and that IT runs on. Let's take a look at a couple of key highlights in both Flow Designer and IntegrationHub in the Paris release that are relevant to this use case of IT service request automation. So in Flow Designer, the first main enhancement we have is run with role. So this allows you to create a user-initiated flow that runs with its own roles and not the roles of the user, so that only authorized users can execute the flow, which provides another layer of security for sensitive use cases. And secondly, we now support service catalog multi-row variable sets. We'll actually learn the multi-row variable sets and turn it into an array that you can use inside your flow. In IntegrationHub, key new enhancement is the connection management dashboard. We're very excited about this. This is about taking that experience of setting up credentials and authentication from being hours and extremely painful to 3 or 4 clicks. We also add support for multiple active connections, and so now spokes can be configured against multiple instances of a particular system. So if you have 6 Jira environments, that's not a problem. And we publish new spokes every month in the ServiceNow store, the 3rd Thursday to be exact. So you don't have to wait for our twice annual major releases. We've got more automations coming every month. There's currently 90 spokes in the store. In August, we added 10 new ones and 8 updates to existing spokes, including Workday HR and Automation Anywhere. And in mid-September, we anticipate publishing 12 new spokes and 10 updates, including Microsoft Excel, SAP Ariba, and SAP ERP, which will bring the total to over 100 spokes in the store. And it's not just about spoke volume. On average, a spoke has about 20 integration actions, and so these are functionally rich automations. All right, let's take a look at some of the common use cases we're seeing at a broad set of our customers to give you an idea of what customers are doing, which spokes are involved, and the business outcomes that these automations are driving. So we package IntegrationHub into different packages that include different spokes. And so what I've shown here are the spoke packages that are really relevant to IT service request automation. And I've highlighted the spokes that really power the use cases that I'll talk about. You can see the latest spokes by package at the URL shown, and this is updated monthly as new spokes are added. And please note, we also have a standard package for DevOps automation. However, this package is not super relevant to the use cases we're talking about today, but we are seeing heavy adoption of the Jira spoke in the standard package, for example. All right, so let's take a look at some of the top use cases we're seeing at a broad range of customers today. There are many more. This is just a sample to get your ideas going around how to realize the benefits of process automation as broadly as possible for your IT service desk. So password reset, client software distribution, resetting VDI, in particular Citrix sessions, and automating system access requests to any number of different applications are among the top use cases in terms of request and incident volume that we're seeing from clustering analytics running on customer instances. Microsoft Teams creation automation is also an interesting use case that saves an unbelievable amount of time, and I'll share a customer story on that. But first, let's take a look at password reset. So, according to Gartner, between 20 and 30% of all IT tickets are for password reset alone. Most of the time, these involve Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, or SSO platforms like Okta and OneLogin, or other credential stores. These external credential stores are where IntegrationHub spokes come in, and they're part of the end-to-end password reset solution that comes out of the box with ITSM. You can see how quickly calls and tickets into the service desk can add up in terms of OPEX. For a 10,000-person org, this can add up to $300K a year in cost, not even counting the cost of lost productivity on the requester side. All of this cost can be automated away with ServiceNow password reset end-to-end automation. So here's a simplified view of the workflow automation for password reset. The user is notified where they are in Slack that their password's about to expire. This would also work if the user was locked out. They could proactively request a reset link in Virtual Agent in Slack. The VA conversation triggers the out-of-the-box password reset workflow and Azure AD subflow and sends a reset link to the user where they can go to enter a new password. Patrick will demonstrate the actual user experience and automation in just a bit. The Requests for new Microsoft Teams have exploded since the forced change to everyone working from home or otherwise remotely since COVID hit in March. Before, a request was entered in the service portal and could take days to complete. Now, the end-to-end process, including approvals and team formation, can be automated and resolved in minutes. This is what it looks like. Again, a request in Virtual Agent opens a Service Catalog request item that triggers the back-end automation using Azure AD, Teams Graph API spokes, and Team spokes. Stakeholders get immediate approval requests on their mobile. They swipe right to approve, and the rest of it is taken care of right away by IntegrationHub. Again, Patrick will demo the actual user experience and under-the-hood back-end automation. But first, I want to talk about a specific customer, American University, who put this automation into production in March of this year. So American University has the Office of IT. They serve 4,500 faculty and staff and over 13,000 students. And they built this solution to automate requests from the faculty and staff so they could keep education going when COVID-19 hit. They fully automated 150 requests in the first month alone. They reduced mean time to resolution from 29 hours to 8 minutes, and they saved a full person week in the first month alone, freeing up a full-time employee to focus on higher value, more strategic work. They fulfilled requests near instantaneously, enabling work to continue uninterrupted at remote locations. Not only that, but they also automated other routine system access requests to various applications that their faculty and staff use, saving another 18 hours of OPEX a month, and achieved 100% return on investment on their IntegrationHub purchase in less than 6 months. For access to one of those systems called StarRes, mean time to resolution went from 2 days and 8 hours to under 5 minutes. It's a pretty awesome boost in the service experience. So with that, I want to pass it over to Patrick, who will give you the rundown on clustering analytics and how it can identify your biggest OPEX saving automation opportunities. And then he'll demo no-code automation for system access, password reset, and Microsoft Teams. Patrick, it's all yours.
Thanks, Martin. So, clustering analytics and no-code automation demos. I'm Patrick Beauchemin. I am one of the solutions architects here at ServiceNow. Looking forward to speaking with you today. So, at ServiceNow, we designed a tool using our predictive intelligence capabilities to analyze your consumption on the ServiceNow platform and build a use case for automation within your environment. I talk to a lot of IT leaders, and the problems are all the same. I need to automate more, whether that's a support activity or routine service requests, incidents like we're talking about today. I need proactive customer care. I need to shift from reacting to outages to predicting them. I need to remediate security incidents or really any kind of incidents quicker. And I need to reduce overall resolution time and increase NPS. I need to deliver the best support experience for my internal and external customers. And the last one is always, ServiceNow is a magnificent tool in my environment. I need to maximize the investment that I've already made to get additional value out of ServiceNow. So the solution is to leverage the clustering solution to understand the automation capabilities within your environment. It's going to work to identify automation use cases and VA conversations that can deflect work within the environment. It provides insights that are going to allow you to look for ways to improve service and deliver service at a higher level within your environment. It's going to provide recommendations to reduce the volume of incidents and requests and cases that cause manual effort within your environment. And the last thing, and probably the most impactful thing that's going to do, it's going to produce a business case for investing in automation and automating things within your environment based off of the data within your environment. So predictive analytics is a 6-step process, right? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to clone one of your production instances down to subcrowd. We're then going to run predictive intelligence on any table that produces work within your environment. The common tables include incidents, requests, if you're using event management and ITOM, and then any of your security and risk type work tables as well. Then we're going to analyze those results to identify automation candidates, and we're going to create remediation recommendations so you can automate those requests within your environment. We're then going to extrapolate the results to understand what the total annual volume of that work is. We'll take a blended labor rate within your environment to calculate the potential cost savings based off of the volume and duration. And then last step is going to be providing that business case for you to share with your leadership on where you can use ServiceNow to automate work within this environment. So I want to share with you a little bit of the output of one of these clustering exercises that we've ran at our customers. And we're going to see the same things really across the board. And some of the stuff we're talking about today, right? The password resets of the world, the application access of the world, processing events from things like AWS, all of those system-generated events. So we're going to understand what the source is. Is it an event or is it a non-event? And that means, is it machine-driven or is it something that my users are either requesting or putting manually in terms of an incident? We're then going to see the cluster size. So this is actually the number of times this incident or request got put into the environment. And then the duration is how long it takes to resolve this. And typically, these are resolved manually, and obviously the short description. We're then going to propose remediation recommendations, and these are going to be around using the ServiceNow capabilities that you may or may not already have to either create a virtual agent conversation. This virtual agent conversation may say, here's the link to the password reset. But by doing that, we've diverted that work from the service desk back to the person putting in that work into the environment. And then we're going to tell you what supporting tools you need to have within your environment to satisfy that use case. We're also going to assign a level of effort to it using the kind of a red, yellow, and a green. A green is going to be your very quick win, something that you can accomplish within a matter of weeks. And then obviously red is going to be those longer term automations. So you want to take the biggest swings that you can at automation within your environment first. The last slide I want to share with you on this is actually a business case that we provided back to a customer around automation. So the first was, if we automate these things within your environment, we're going to be able to save you 125,000 to 368 hours that you can save manually on manual effort and give that back to your fulfillers to work on complex problems within your organization. And that time returned, that's $5.1 to $10.3 million in potential savings over the last 5 years. And then we shared with this leadership team the top 5 incident types and the top 5 requested item types for automation within your environment. And once again, those are going to be all around application access, user rights management within the environment, password reset type of activities. I think the most impactful, conversation that this led to is the ROI over a 5-year period. So we're talking about a 300 to 600% return on investment. A lot of ears perked up at that point. And then with a very, very short payback period for really any IT project, which was 7.6 to 12.3 months. So now I'm going to transfer into the demonstration environment so we can show you some real-world use cases on how you can actually create automation within your environment. So just hold on for just a moment.
So for our first demo, we are going to onboard Tom Araya to our organization. We're going to select a user role. In this user role, we'll place Tom in the correct groups as well as give him access to Microsoft Teams so he can collaborate with his group, as well as place him on the correct distribution list for email. So Tom is going to be an individual contributor in Group 1. And we'll go ahead and order his onboarding now. Now keep in mind, this onboarding could also be part of a larger onboarding process front-ended by ServiceNow's HR service delivery application. Now let's take a look at Tom's profile in Azure Active Directory. We'll notice that his profile has been created, as well as group membership has been assigned. We'll notice that Tom is in Group 1 and Email Distribution Group 1 as part of his job role. Now let's open up our onboard user flow to see how it was created. So this flow, you'll notice, has been triggered from the service catalog. When we trigger a flow from the service catalog, we then have access to all the variables that the user put in on the form on the service catalog item. You'll notice that first name, last name, and job role now all become reusable data pills as part of the data pill picker. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look up the job role records in a table in ServiceNow CMDB. The reason for this is because this role table has additional attributes about the role. For example, the group membership and the email distribution lists that the user should be a part of. We may extend this even further to automatically deploy software to the user's workstation, or maybe create them a VDI environment. We're then creating the user in Azure Active Directory using our out-of-the-box Azure AD spoke in the create user action. So his display name is always going to be first name last. The user ID is going to be first name dot last name at the domain. We then create an email address and provide other information. This is where we may provide additional attributes either from the service portal catalog item or the employee onboarding application. We are then looking up the user records against the security groups in emails under the user role table. We will then iterate through the list of groups that the user should be assigned to and add the user to our Office 365 group by the ID of the group. This is a subflow, as it's a reusable piece of work that could be used for other processes. The first thing that we need to do is we need to look up the group ID by the group name. When we look up that group ID, the spoke returns the group ID of the group that the user should go in. And then in step 2, we're taking that group ID and we're adding the user to the group by the group ID with our other input, the user ID. At this point, the workflow has completed and Tom has successfully been onboarded. So Tom's been around for about 45 days or so now, and he's working away in Slack, and then suddenly he gets a message. Tom, your password will expire in 15 days. Please click the link below to reset your password. Thanks. Password reminder bot. So at this point, Tom's pretty excited. At his last job, he would literally call the service desk every 90 days because he would always forget to change his password. He clicks the link and he's brought to the ServiceNow password reset screen. So he provides his old password and a new password. Slayer rocks 123. He hits change password. Oh, doesn't meet password requirements. Let's add a hashtag at the end. Request in progress. Passwords changed successfully. Now let's take a brief look at the flow that facilitates changing passwords and resetting passwords in your environments. Out of the box, in the Paris release, ServiceNow Password Resets facilitates resetting passwords in an Azure AD in a traditional on-premise Active Directory environment. It can also be used to change the ServiceNow password too if you're using local ServiceNow authentication. The Password Reset application gives you an easily extensible framework that you can build a flow like this one to really reset any password within your environment, even if that application isn't integrated with Active Directory. Additionally, Password Reset supports multi-factor authentication, whether that's QA verification, SMS verification through Twilio, or authentication through Google Authenticator to provide for multi-factor authentication to validate the identity of the person requesting the password change or reset. At this point, things are going really well for Tom. In fact, he got a call from his manager that he's being promoted. Formerly, Tom was an individual contributor in Group 1. He found out today he is being promoted to be the Senior Vice President of IT. Now, typically, the user role change process requires a user's access to be removed, and then a new set of Active Directory user groups, Exchange distribution groups, maybe new applications need to be applied to that user's profile. While this isn't a tricky job for a service desk agent or an access and identity management person to do, it does become rather time-consuming and monotonous. Luckily, ServiceNow and IntegrationHub provide out-of-the-box spokes to do some of these common user role change type activities. Now, if we look in Azure Active Directory at Tom's profile in the groups he belongs to, they should have changed. Yes, rather than being in Group 1 and being a member of Email Distribution 1, now that Tom is the Senior Vice President of IT, he has access to all the groups as well as all the distribution lists. Now let's take a look at the user role change flow. Much like the user onboarding flow, it's service catalog driven and contains reusable subflows within the master workflow. You'll see this subflow will remove the user from the Office 365 group by ID. First, it's going to look up the group ID, then it's going to look up the user's user ID, and then it's going to remove that user from the group. If we go back into the user role change master flow, the next step in the process will be to add the user IDs to the Office 365 group by ID. Since we had already created this reusable subflow as part of the onboarding process, we simply had to consume it in the user role change flow. Now, let's add another step in this process by sending an email to HR to let them know that the user role change has been completed. We simply add an action, and we'll look for email, send email, HR at company. The subject is user has successfully changed roles. And we could add a body to the email there. So now we've changed our user role change process to include an email to HR after the role change process has been completed. Now that Tom's role has successfully been changed to the Senior Vice President of IT, he'll need to create a Microsoft team so his users can collaborate together. He'll use the virtual agent to complete this request. He would like a Microsoft team. What is the name of the team you'd like created? Tom's team. Who should be a part of this team? The virtual agent is smart enough to use intelligence to come up with logical members of Tom's team. He'll pick Jamie in sales. You'd like to add another member. Maybe Bob in marketing. And Luke Skywalker for good measure. No. What is the initial message you would like to post to the team? team, we will use this spot to collaborate across work streams. Now, the virtual agent is putting in a service request to have the Microsoft team created. If we open up the service request, we can see the status of the request in real time. You'll notice that the request is approved and provisioning of the Microsoft team has already started. Now let's take a look at Microsoft Teams. We'll notice that Tom's team has been created with Jamie Sales, Bob in Marketing, Luke Skywalker, and Tom himself. Lastly, let's take a look at the flow. We'll notice that it is a service catalog triggered flow, but instead of using the traditional service catalog, we use the now virtual agent to create the catalog item. Then we're pulling in the catalog items from the variables, we're iterating through the list of users that should be in a team. If the user isn't a manager, we'll go ahead and ask for approval, and then we'll bounce into our Create MS Team subflow, as well as add each member of the team to the Office 365 group so they can become a member of the Microsoft team. We will then update the requested item record and close out the request. This concludes the demo portion of today's presentation. With that, I'll hand it back over to Martin for closing remarks and to facilitate Q&A. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Patrick. Awesome job. So yeah, real quick, just wanted to recap with two takeaways. Real simple. First off, you can really drive substantial and meaningful OPEX savings with no-code automations using IntegrationHub and Flow Designer. Again, extending that front-end automation that you may already have with Virtual Agent to trigger those back-end workflow automations. Tremendous opportunity here to really deliver on that KPI or that metric that we're hearing from a broad range of CIOs. And secondly, to really ask your account exec about the clustering analytics solution that Patrick talked about. This will give you a customized readout on what your biggest ROI reduction opportunities are in terms of your specific request, incident, and service desk call data. I also encourage you to check out in the resources the ITSM automation webinar series. It's a bit of a deeper dive and really, shows you how to effectively prioritize and roll out an automation program at your organization. So with that, I see we've got a few questions. So Patrick, let's see what we can do here. I'll read them out and we'll see who can answer them. So the first one we have is for the password reset, are you able to show how people are able to reset if they forgot the password? So our demo yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, so we probably won't be able to show it live today. There's a couple experiences there that we offer help. One of which would be at the Windows lock screen, right? We can actually allow the user to reset their password there. The other kind of experience for your users, which this only really works if your customer is still able to either authenticate into ServiceNow or you have a publicly accessible page. There's actually a password reset screen that we can provide right in ServiceNow. Not so relevant in COVID times. I did this at the former organization I used to work for before I came over to ServiceNow. We did have password, reset sort of portals, if you will, deployed throughout the various floors and the different service sets at our organization. And then there are some other creative ways that you can do this with SMS and text message as well, but they aren't so much out of the box. I hope that helps.
Yeah, so, bottom line is, yeah, we can absolutely support the lockout scenario or the expired password scenario. Thanks, Patrick. Next question, password reset, does it work with Okta as well? So I'll take a crack at just maybe the beginning, and Patrick, you can maybe complete the answer. But we do have an Okta spoke that has a password reset function or action in it, and so you can use that spoke to kind of extend our out-of-the-box password reset to reset Okta passwords. So short answer is yes. Patrick, any other comments on that?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there, right? Password reset out of the box supports Azure AD, local ServiceNow, but it's highly extensible, right? And it's just a framework. So you could easily consume that Okta spoke the same way that in the demo we were consuming the Azure AD spoke, or in password reset we consume the AD spoke. You could basically switch out those activities, and you could add resetting the Okta password into that process.
Cool. All right. Here's a challenging one, at least for me. Maybe not for you, Patrick. So, is it possible to use Integration Hub and spokes with on-prem ServiceNow platform?
So, I am not 100% sure, but I have talked to a customer, and I believe that you can use Integration Hub with an on-prem ServiceNow platform. On-premise does, obviously add its, and I'm guessing, Rob, if you're working in an on-prem environment, there are certain challenges around managing an on-prem ServiceNow environment. So if you don't mind, I'm actually going to take your specific answer back to your question back to the product team, and I'll get you an answer via email if there are any actual technical limitations to it.
Sounds good. We will be sure to follow up on that. All right, next one. When you say that you have 100 spokes in the store, are they purchased on a one-off basis, or are all of them available with an Integration Hub subscription? Yeah, great question. So I did cover briefly the packages. So spokes are grouped into packages. There's a starter package, which is actually free for everyone. So you can go into production with, Slack, with Teams, with Twilio, with Zoom. That's a free starter package. And then from there, we kind of group it into DevOps, which is the standard, productivity and identity, which is the professional package, and then the enterprise package at the top end, which is your core systems of record, things like SAP, Dynamics CRM, Workday, HR, Oracle Financials, et cetera, et cetera. DocuSign is another key one in the enterprise package. Adobe as well. And the standard, professional, and enterprise packages do require a separate subscription. So hopefully that answers that one. Let's see. Is there anything I can do with workflow and orchestration that I cannot do with Flow Designer and Integration Hub? Great question. Again, Patrick, I'll take a crack at it and correct me or complete the answer as needed. So since roughly Madrid, we've just made tremendous investment in Integration Hub and Flow Designer to really, bring them to an enterprise-grade solution. And the answer is that we've effectively, surpassed the legacy orchestration and Flow Designer, as of New York, I'd say, or at least kind of, evened it out and obviously delivered a lot more, but delivered all of that legacy functionality in New York. And then since then, in Orlando and then in Paris, in 2 weeks or whatever, when it releases to market launch, I think we'll be well beyond that. So I would say that, there might be, if you looked if you dug really, really deep, and, you might be able to find a corner case or two that you could do with the legacy workflow and orchestration, but effectively and for all intents and purposes, we've gone well beyond that in terms of the capabilities that we're now delivering in the Flow Designer and Integration Hub. Patrick, anything to add to that?
No, I think that was great. The only thing I might add is at this point, right, it makes a lot of sense for especially net new workflows to begin developing them on Integration Hub and Flow Designer, for the reasons you just outlined, Martin.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. So let me just add that caused me to think of something else. A best practice that we recommend to orchestration customers that have it in production is to not rewrite those automations, right? So you can actually bring those forward. You can trigger those from Flow Designer, and you don't have to rewrite them. And we actually recommend that you don't rewrite them. But as Patrick said, for new automations, we absolutely recommend that you use these new tools, Integration Hub and Flow Designer. All right, let's see. Patrick, this one's going to go to you. So website errors and error details are emailed to the help desk group. Help desk opens a ServiceNow ticket for the web team. How can we automate that workflow?
So I think we can take the swivel chair right out of it, right? Website errors out, email DSL to the help desk group. Have those error details email to ServiceNow. We can process that email right through Integration Hub and Flow Designer, and we can create meaningful work for an engineer to look at, or maybe a dev team to look at using an Integration Hub or a Flow Designer flow. I'll take that a step further is maybe you have some sort of remediation in place, right? Or you need to connect to another system. Maybe the development team works in Jira, for example. So I think there's a lot of, without understanding the very specifics of the situation, and Oscar, if you want to email me, I'm certainly happy to talk it over with you. I think there's a lot of room for automation within that process.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. The email triggers are key to that. All right. Cool. So next one. This is definitely for you, Patrick. What is the error handling within Integration Hub and Flow Designer? Is there a task created or some way to monitor when an integration or an automation fails?
Yeah. So there is absolutely built-in error logging inside of Integration Hub or Flow Designer. We don't have any out-of-the-box workflows that create a ticket when an automation fails. Having done this in practice, rather than looking at that kind of globally in terms of Integration Hub, I would always recommend architecting, maybe even a failure subflow, right? So it's reusable, but should a step fail, hey, why don't you create a ticket for the automation team? Another best practice there is don't black box automation. So if something fails, don't just have the service request get closed out incomplete, right? Reassign that service request to a user so they can, obviously take care of the work manually and then work with the automation team to investigate the failure.
All right. This next one's for me. Are Integration Hub and Flow Designer separate SKUs but designed to be used together? The answer to that is yes. They are separate SKUs. There's a couple of things here. So Flow Designer is actually available to everyone. The only time that you need to purchase a SKU to use Flow Designer is if you're going to use a lot of custom tables or create a lot of custom tables in your automations. In that case, you would purchase the App Engine SKU. So Flow Designer is, when you need those custom tables, is part of the App Engine SKU. Integration Hub is its own set of SKUs, as I talked about with the starter, the standard, the professional, and the enterprise packages. There's also a password reset limited package if all you need is password reset, or you just want to start with password reset. There's a dedicated package for that. And then there's transaction add-on packs. We've set the pricing and the transaction levels such that really to make it a non-issue for 95% of customers. So The transactions that you get are really high with each package. For example, with the starter package, you get 1 million transactions. And so it should be a non-issue for, again, most customers, but there are add-on packs for power users. Let's see. Anything else? Is there any prescriptive guidance that you can provide on how to get started with automation that will be impactful to my organization, and where do you see your customers starting first? Patrick, I'll direct that one to you.
So I would say, right, if you can, use your own data to do that analysis. And clustering analytics and predictive intelligence is going to be the tool to help you do that analysis. I can speak for what we see from most of our customers, right, and the stuff we went across today. It's going to be those low effort, heavy hitting, lots of ticket sort of requests. And that's always going to be around Exchange distribution lists, or I need access to this folder, or I need my password reset. So I think a lot of what we shared today are going to be where we recommend you get started to build that automation center of excellence in your organization.
All right, great. And then this is the last one we'll take. Does Integration Hub give you the ability to create custom spokes if I want to automate something that ServiceNow doesn't provide out of the box? Patrick, you want to take that one?
Yeah. I'm guessing that came from maybe an orchestration customer where we didn't provide a lot of out-of-the-box spokes, but you have the capabilities to run a PowerShell command, or run an SSH command, or integrate with a REST API. We didn't take any of those capabilities away. If not, we've actually made them significantly easier within Integration Hub. So you absolutely can. So I always tell customers, anything with a command line interface or an API interface, we can automate within ServiceNow.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. We're coming up to the top of the hour, as they say. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to spend with us here today. We hope that we've provided some value, some actionable insights, and a way to start off or to kick off your automation projects. Feel free to reach out to either of us with any more questions, and make sure to check out the resources. Again, that ITSM automation webinar series is a bit of a deeper dive and offers some of that prescriptive guidance on how to get started. So thank you, and have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.